Good morning. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. At the beginning of our Torah portion, Tavo, we have a mitzvah bikurim. A farmer in Israel, when the Beit HaMikdash is standing in Jerusalem, a farmer in Israel gathers some of his bikurim, the first fruits of what he is growing, and he puts the fruits in a basket, and he brings the fruits to the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And when he comes, he recites a text, a formula. And basically, and we quote this text at the Pesach Seder, he tells the story of the Jewish people in Egypt and coming out of Egypt and coming to Israel, and you, God, have given us the land of Israel. V'ata, and he continues and says, and now, hine hevesius rashis pri ha'adama. I am bringing to you, God, the first fruits of the land, asher nasata li Hashem, the land that you have given to me, the land of Israel. So he says these words, V'hinachto lifnei Hashem Elokecha, and he places them before Hashem. V'hishtachavisa lifnei Hashem Elokecha, and he bows down before Hashem, your God. It's an interesting detail at the end, bowing down. Lihishtachava, to bow down, is found a number of times in the Torah, but clearly it does not always have the same meaning. For example, you remember back in Bereshis, when Yaakov meets Esav after a period of many years of being away. Yaakov had left home after Esav had threatened him because Yaakov took the blessings from their father Yitzchak instead of Esav. And this is now the first time the two brothers are going to meet again. And we know, of course, the Torah tells us that Yaakov is very afraid of what will happen at this meeting. And the Torah tells us that when Yaakov appears before Esav, Yaakov bows down. And he does so in submission to Esav, to say to him, I'm not a threat to you. I'm not responsible for stealing the bracha. Because remember, it was his mother Rivka that told him what to do. He says to Yaakov, you remember we quoted Rabbi Jonathan Sachs about this, I didn't benefit from it. And so he bows in submission. You're the older brother, I'm the younger brother. Let's not have any trouble between us. Like a person might bow down before a king or a queen. You are my master. You are my sovereign. Here, for the mitzvah of bikurim, in our Torah portion, the meaning is different. Here, the person is bowing out of a sense of hakaras hatov, of gratitude. Hashem, we're so grateful for the gift of the land of Israel, that the promises of God have come true for me. And I'm bowing to show my gratitude, like another incident back in the book of Bereshis, when Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, is sent on a mission to find a mate for Yitzchak, Abraham's son. And he finds Rivka, and he understands that this is the woman that God intends for Yitzchak to marry. And the Torah tells us that he bows down out of gratitude to God for making his mission successful and finding an appropriate spouse for Yitzchak. And it's mentioned other times in the Torah. So it's interesting how we have the same action, but the action can have different meanings depending on the context. Now, this action, li'ishtachava, to bow down, means to lower ourselves so that our knees are on the ground and bend over our head so that our forehead touches the ground. It is kneeling onto the ground. What we call bowing today in Jewish services, we bow 4 different times during the Amidah, the standing prayer. When we say the paragraph of Modim, giving thanks to God. When we say Aleinu l'shabeach, we bow. We say Baruch Hu, we bow. That's a pale version of the actual bowing, which is to get down on the floor. But clearly, from our Torah portion and other passages in the Torah, bowing in its original manner plays a noticeable role in our history and in our service to God. I think today most Jews feel an innate discomfort with bowing down. First of all, for us, the action is now associated with the practices of other religions who pray kneeling on the ground. And also, it's just something that I think for many of us, especially Jews in North America, it's a little bit too visceral for us. It's a little bit too primitive. We're more restrained and sophisticated. And I think many of us are too self-conscious to actually bow down to the ground. There remain today only 2 prayers during the year for which it is still appropriate to bow in the original manner. They occur on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. On all 3 of those days, when we say the prayer of Aleinu in the reader's repetition of the Amidah, and also on Yom Kippur when we say the Avodah, the section of the Yom Kippur service in the afternoon of Yom Kippur, where we retell the order of the sacrifices offered by the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, when the Beit HaMikdash was standing. Now, different places, there are different practices at ADATH. I don't know how many people do this because I know that I do it. I know the Chazan does it. But for me personally, it's a very overwhelming spiritual moment. And so I'm really not aware of what anyone else is doing at that moment. I know that Marcy tells me that she's always watching to see if I get back up again. Thank God so far, every year I have. But I want to make a suggestion. If this is not something that you have ever done, try it this year. Listen, you don't need to feel self-conscious. I mean, if you do yoga, it's not any more embarrassing than yoga poses. Everyone does yoga. Try it. Obviously, consult with your doctor first. Want to make sure that it's okay for you to do it. Our shul does not have any kind of insurance that would cover someone, God forbid, injuring themselves while bowing down. So you have to take care of that yourself. But if you've never done it, if you don't do it, try it. Now, the 2 times that we bow down, meaning on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when we say the Aleinu prayer in the reader's repetition, that happens 3 times, but I'm saying that's for the Aleinu. And then it's actually 3 times during the Avodah section on Yom Kippur. It's a total of 6 times, but I mean the 2 prayers where we say it. Outwardly they are similar, but they are very different in emotional and spiritual content. When we say Aleinu, we bow our knees until they're touching the ground, till they're on the ground. And then we bend our head forward till our forehead touches the ground. And we do this as we say the words, Va'anachnu korim. We kneel and bow in submission. Lifnei melech malchei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before you, the King of Kings, may his holy name be blessed. When I bow down saying those words, I feel the energy of God so much more powerfully, so much more deeply than by just saying the words. I feel in my bones God above is in charge. God is the Melech, the sovereign, the king, which is the overarching theme of these days. And I feel in my bones that my strength and my power and my knowledge is nothing in the face of God's. Now, we repeat this frequently in our prayers throughout Rosh Hashanah, when we refer to God as Melech, as the king or sovereign. It's the reason, one of the reasons, that we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. The shofar is the coronet that announces the approach of the king. It is the essence of the day, Malchus. But for me, there is no moment I relate to God as king as strongly as when my knees bend and my head touches the ground. That is Rosh Hashanah. The Avodah section of Yom Kippur is emotionally a very different prayer. Unfortunately, from the point of view of Jewish law and Jewish teaching, while it is the highlight of this special day, unfortunately, it occurs in the afternoon, as at least in our congregation, the crowd and our strength is waning. And so it hurts me that I feel in our congregation that it doesn't receive the attention it deserves. But if we can be present in body and in spirit, we can transport ourselves to another world. We retell the narrative of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, performing the rituals of Yom Kippur in the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash, with everyone standing around watching. And as the Chazan says these prayers, these passages, we, in the synagogue, in our mind's eye, we can watch the Kohen Gadol as well. We visualize the rituals, the actions, the sacrifices being performed in front of us. And the goal is for us to visualize the scene as if we're standing there. We see the Kohen Gadol hurrying from one ceremony to the next, disappearing as he enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, and reappearing as he exits safely. And we watch as he offers confession, the vidui, for himself, for his family, for the entire Jewish people, for the sins we have done throughout the year, with the absolute promise of God's forgiveness if it is done correctly and sincerely, with commitment to improve our behavior. And we strain to hear the holy name of God that is uttered only at that special moment, but not uttered clearly, since it is too holy for us to bear. And that's the moment. In the face of God's overwhelming presence, we bow down and lie down flat on the ground and recite, together with those in the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash 2,000 years ago, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso Le'olam Voed. Blessed is God's holy name forever. This is the deepest essence of Yom Kippur, the day on which atonement leads to intimacy with God. And if it is real for us, it must be overwhelming. Who can remain standing in the face of this closeness? And who can remain unchanged? Who can remain unimproved? Who can remain the same person after experiencing this with one's entire body? We say prayers with our lips, with our mouths, but that is only the first step of prayer. To be meaningful, and this applies all year long, to achieve what prayer is intended to achieve, we must also pray with our mind, with our heart, with our tears, with our history, with our future, and with our entire body. So if you have never done this before, I invite you to try it along with me this year. And I would appreciate hearing from you how it feels. I predict it will be a spiritual moment you will never forget. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.